doubt your, these are all the things that I'm doubting. That is it really God? Is it really God? Someone taking something from you that already belongs to him anyway. Why would he take it? Why would he want your soul? He gave you that soul. What does he want the soul for? He gives you the strength. Everything you have, he gives you. You are believing that he gives you. Why would he want it back? But as I said, this is some this sinistry thing that makes me realize that it is not truly God. It is a spirit, all right? This spirit, and they're going to experience a very powerful spirit. And this spirit somehow is adapting them, or is adapting these people, and he's telling them that this is what I need from you. I need your total surrender and submission, and that requires your soul. And just like any other man will need somebody to sort of use to do something, and he will require that person's total submission. And submission means your soul and everything. As we see in practicality, we can relate it and see what I'm trying to say here. So definitely it was a high sense of demand that the Spirit was demanding from them, whether it's Jehovah, whichever way it is. It may be Jehovah, there's a name called, fine, but it is not the Almighty God. He might make the claim of all the big claims, saying that I created the heavens and the earth and all that. In relations to his people, in relations to the Jewish people, he created the heavens and the earth. Without him, they wouldn't have known a thing. They wouldn't have an idea of anything. So he declares himself according to in the confines of his rule, and that maybe in the spiritual sense, that's okay. Maybe if the Almighty God is there, he doesn't feel offended by it. But looking at the life and how, sometimes the calamities and all the disaster that happens, that even Jehovah, and if Allah too, or whichever religious group your God, religious group you belong to, your God has to come to save you from such a thing. You realize that anger, that natural causes of tsunami and the rest of the dangers that happen may not necessarily have been done by your God, Jehovah or Allah or whichever God you belong to. Maybe the Almighty God, the source of life himself, the nature, the true nature, natural God himself, demonstrates his anger and sometimes reacts that way. And so it becomes necessary for another powerful spirit, maybe a sub-God, or, to exercise his power to protect you or to save his nation that he has adopted in one way or the other. This is just suggestions here, because I know the whole thing is not adding up. But I pointed out to you for you to see that it is not adding up. If these things keep making sense to you, I don't know the way you think. If we continue from 11, he says in 8, therefore you shall keep every commandment which I command you today, that you may be strong and go in the land and possess it. Keeping the commandment is very important. If you keep the commandment, you will get your promise. You will get the land. It just didn't look like he all the promise he made to Abraham would just happen. Because he made it to Abraham. Abraham is dead, God. Isaac is dead, God. Jacob is dead. And this generation, even them, before them to have it, they will not probably have it. So their children will probably have it. So it goes on in 10. He says, for the land which you go to possess is not like the land of Egypt, from which you have come, where you sowed your seed and watered it by foot as a vegetable garden. This time you are not going to have a land where you are going to sweat and have it. It's already been prepared for you. He's taking from another people and giving it to them. As I said, he's taking it from another people and giving it to them. So a just and a fair God, a God who is no respecter of a person, would not necessarily do this to any other or give it what he has for giving me. You not take from me and give it to the Jew. For what reason? We know the ways of the Jews. We know how they've come about. Why would he give it to the Jew that way? But this is what is sweet and nice for the Jew to accept. It says in 11, but the land which you cross over to possess is a land of hills and valleys, which drinks water from the rain of heaven. Okay, a land for which the Lord your God cares. The eyes of the Lord your God are always on it, from the beginning of the year to the very end of the year. And it shall be that if you earnestly obey my commandments, which I command you today, to love the Lord your God and serve him with all your heart and with all your soul, then I will give you the rain for your land in its season, and the early rain and the latter rain, that you may gather in your grain, your new wine and your oil, and will send grass in your fields of your livestock, that you may eat and be filled. 16. Take heed to yourselves, lest your hearts be deceived, and you turn aside and serve other gods and worship them, lest the Lord's anger be aroused against you, and be shut up the heavens, so that there be no rain, and the land yield no produce, and you perish quickly from the good land which the Lord is giving you. It's our suggestion of warning and what can happen if they do not follow through to love and cherish their God and obey him in a sense that he would want them to do. Therefore you shall lay 18. Therefore you shall lay up these words of mine in your heart and your soul, and bind them as a sign on your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes. You shall teach them to your children. Speak of them when you sit in your house, when you walk by the way, when you lie down, and when you rise up. And you shall write them on the doorpost of your house, and on your gates, that your days and the days of your children may be multiplied in the land of which the Lord swore to your fathers to give them, like the days of the heavens above the earth. So these are all practices might be familiar to you. You can go to some places and you are passing around in your, I don't know where you are, wherever you are, you go around and you see sometimes, just like an election where people paste all sort of pictures of candidates and all that, and advices of how to vote. The same way you go, you see Christians, Muslims, whichever. Muslims, not much of Muslims, but yeah, they also do the same thing. You see them putting all sort of rules and regulations of, or some verse or text, or some verse or chapter, and then paste it in the window or in the gates and all that. People are practicing these things. They all has been picked here. If it's a Christian, you see the Christian, they do this also. Even though they are not Jews, even though they were not there, they practice it as if that time, the generation has passed that descended the practice, and they pass it on, and they are also doing just that because they've read it in the book, and they know that doing that, Jehovah will sometimes be on your side and bless you. So that is the main reason why. And these are all here. So when you see people do that, they're not just doing it. It's a practice of which they believe can have a strong effect, or can bring some blessing onto their life, or they'll see the actions of God. They'll see God do something, raise the dead, or do something powerful like he did at that time. It's a way of trying to do something to show or demonstrate they are obeying God. Their obedience to who? To God. And so here, in that sense, it clearly states. Now we go to 20, and you shall write them on the doorpost and your house and your gates. That 21, that your days, there's a good promise that your days will be, you have a long day, long life and all that. In 22, for if you carefully keep all these commandments which I command you to do, to love the Lord your God, to walk all his ways, and to hold fast to him, then the Lord will drive out all these nations from before you, and you will dispossess great and mightier nations than yourselves. You see, now here God is giving them that, Jehovah is giving them that promise again. you will you will overcome, you will conquer mightier nations and possess that land. He's going to give all that to them, to the Jew,